And telecom operators are moving rapidly towards a future where networks can configure, heal, and optimize themselves with minimal human intervention. This panel will examine the evolution from human-led operations to zero-touch orchestration, exploring how AI, machine learning, and intent-based automation are really enabling self-managing networks. Joining us are Gaya Byrne. She's head of customer success, that at Telstra International. And next to her is Rishi Shukla. He's sales APAC, that at Rakuten Symphony. And speakers, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Of course, we're here at FutureNet Asia 2025, day one. Rishi, just right off the top, how are you feeling?
I'm pretty excited.
Yeah.
And looking at the theme more around autonomous network and AI. So a lot of learnings. And I would looking forward to all the telcos and the enterprise segments, what they want to take a leap from that, because that's very important, which is going to draw how the future of enterprise or telco would be going forward in next 2 to 3 years, which are very crucial.
Gaya, is this your first FutureNet Asia?
It is,
okay.
Yes.
What are your thoughts so far?
Very exciting to kind of see a huge amount of momentum talking about a topic that is constantly evolving. And so lots of people piling in on that excitement and that journey. Lots of optimism, a little bit of caution. I think we're entering an age where there's more and more unknowns than ever before, but super exciting.
I wanted to go to Gaya first and talk about the journey, so to speak, from these human-led operations to these, so to speak, zero-touch orchestration operations as well. Can you kind of walk us through that from a high level?
Yeah, sure. The way we think about it at Telstra International is that it's almost like a set of stairs. It's not a magic switch that we can flip overnight. And so that first step for us is to really, probably like any other operator out there, thinking about how we disaggregate that transport layer, how we cloudify it a little bit, moving away from this very kind of hardware-centric to much more software-driven, much more cloud-based native stack. The second layer then is to really think about what intent-based automation means for us. So really how we make the network think more about what the outcomes are that we want it to drive, less about commands that then prompt the next kind of action or recommendation. Then when we were able to do that, we then have the opportunity to layer in what we call AI operations. And that's really creating that closed loop of assurance. So the network can not just make a recommendation, but actually really safely execute on that action when it's noticing there's a fault or there's, a surge in demand and traffic. How does it kind of augment itself to really respond to that before the customer even notices, which is really, really powerful. That last step on that staircase is then how we think about orchestration across domains. So how do we take that kind of agility and apply that right across from subsea into terrestrial into cloud networks, so that there's a real kind of seamless way in which all of that end-to-end closed loop works together to give the customer a really kind of seamless outcome. And that actually then is able to let us monetize some of that opportunity as well. So whilst there's a experience benefit for a customer, it then takes us into this commercialization opportunity that we can respond much more quickly to something the customer wants, whereas it used to take us about weeks or months to get to that outcome previously.
Really well said, by the way. Rishi, of course, Rakuten Symphony very much involved in this journey from the human-led operations to zero-touch operations. Can you kind of walk us through that, maybe just from this time last year?
Yeah. So a lot of things are going in this area. And to be honest with you, in the last 25 years, when this journey started, right, the telco or the enterprise world started, that was completely a manual operations, right? So the process was like a trouble ticketing system used to happen, service checks, you log the complaint, and it was like more reactive rather than proactive and completely human based. So that was the first step. We all have seen that era for 10 years, like 2000, 2010. Then what has happened that we started doing assisted and operate. There, what we have done that we started doing some automation scripts for the regular faults or the seed, which are there common in the network. So just to get rid of that, we taught the human that, okay, this is the script you can use. So whatever the repeated things which are happening, you can solve that. So that was the second step which went well. And we call that automated era till 4-5 years. But what I have seen, which is the third step, which is very important, is the closed loop automation. What is happening? This is the genesis of autonomous network. That's what I feel. And now we are depending more on this autonomous area or the AI area where we want to detect the anomalies, say like KPI degradation. If we see that, then how we can proactively do this through the closed loop automation by correcting the policies which are prevailing, right? So this is the third step. And the last is the full-fledged, autonomous network, which where, we all are heading towards that. And then, as you rightly said, right, it's more software-centric. It's more zero-touch, provisioning or orchestration, right? So a complete end-to-end orchestration, which can help us in making a telco player, not an enabler of connectivity, but more like a digital nervous system. So that's what I feel.
Could somebody, and then Gaya, I'll go to you on this, and certainly chime in if you'd like, intent-based networking and closed-loop automation. Could you give us an example maybe, or sort of a real-world use case of how that applies?
Yeah, sure. So if we think about how the network needs to perform, it's got to give as many customers as possible the best experience possible as often as possible. And so the way we think about those are the outcomes that we want the network to achieve. And so that's kind of what I think of as the intent for the network. With the introduction of kind of AI and machine learning, the network then starts to recognize patterns that could then lead to that outcome being challenged or that outcome being threatened. Some of those examples might be, watching latency degrade, or noticing that fiber is at risk, or noticing that a component is about to overheat, and so or that demand and usage is suddenly spiking, or anticipating that it's about to spike. Those are all things that threaten the kind of really gold star experience we want our customers to have. And so in that intent-based automation, we're teaching the network, or the network is learning how to recognize those things, and then to actually not just have a recommendation about what to do that a human then executes, but actually to execute that recommendation themselves. And so an example of recommending that executing on that action might be rerouting traffic onto a different cable system whilst it self-heals where we can see the fault, or really thinking about the type of action a customer would want us to take. And in today's world, a customer has to put in a service request and tell us, hey, we're noticing a degradation in this area, like, can you do something about it? All of that being seamless and kind of more automated. And so that's how we think about closed loop assurance, because all those steps are currently either a human and in best case scenario, a robot taking that action, whereas it could be a much more seamless approach that happens much more in real time.
Yeah. So just to add to what she said, right, use cases you have just suggested, that the thing is we want to make networks so smart with the intelligence that if in order to do any dynamic resource allocation, they can do nick of a time. So, for example, if we know that in a particular area, say in Marina Bay, if there is a convocation, we know there would be huge traffic, right, for a particular time, or on a traffic signal from 6 to 8. Then we could do the scale in and scale out, and that network should able to do that, which they are not currently, and they can do this mechanism of scale in and scale out with the help of dynamic resource allocation. So that is the full idea for the intent-based networking, that what you need as an operator or as an end customer should be fulfilled by the network automatically.
Rishi, I want to talk about, and I certainly chime in if you'd like, trust, accountability, etc. How close are we, again, on this journey between human oversight and automation or automated oversight? What's your level of comfort there as to where we are in that timeline?
Yeah. So, very good question. Before coming to that what should be the human intervention, because I feel that there would never be a scenario where it is be completely, automated and done by machines. Sorry. Because control for the critical things from the policy perspective, from the security perspective, has to go through human, because they should validate whether this has to be adopted or not. So first of all, this would not be 100% machine-led. Second, that the important thing here is that, yes, we can do that in parts, right? So you can do, like we started with CLA, and then we can go up to much more deeper discussion, because look, it's a plethora of data which is coming from IoT, slicings, right, EMAB, MURLCC use cases, AR, VR, video, right, all apps like Instagram, Facebook, we have a lot of data. You cannot do, jugglery around that. This is raw data, right? It's a machine, you need that. So we cannot do that work. But any critical activity, policy-driven, regulation-driven, or politics-driven, right? That has to be done through human intervention. So it's a gradual process which is going to eventually happen. I can say might be 80-20 ratio, where 20% still human brains are required to validate whether it is happening in a right way or how to control that.
Gaya, certainly organizational and cultural shifts are necessary in order to get to this level of automation. From Telstra International's point of view, where are we again on that timeline as far as this shift? And really exhibiting and illustrating the importance of the cultural and organizational shift in this process.
Yeah, completely. There's a couple of different elements to that, and I'll pick up something you mentioned there as well. We can't really do this in a silo, and no operator can. So there's an element of how we actually work in an ecosystem of other operators and with regulators as well, because a real standardized approach, and we work very closely with TM Forum on thinking about open APIs and that open architecture element. That standardized approach is what's going to help us scale really, really quickly. And so from an organizational perspective, where we are in the ecosystem is important. From a people perspective, that is even more important. And so the journey to actually help our people feel really comfortable with trusting a recommendation that comes from an AI agent, to think about that AI agent as their co-pilot, so to speak, to use the Microsoft term. And really one of the ways we've done that in our organization is to think about how we introduce some of that AI capability in each individual's day-to-day before we have those people in our organization trust those commands when it comes to more mission critical type systems. So how does that AI help the day-to-day action? How does it speed up innovation? Really convincing our people. We've done quite a lot of hackathon type stuff internally as well, so that our teams can see the benefit of that speed of innovation as we start to embed more and more of that in the way our systems are thinking and the way our tools and processes are operating. A big mindset shift for our teams has also been to help them think about how their roles and accountabilities will change the more and more agentic or any other type of AI we introduce. And so really thinking of those individuals as subject matter experts that think about the workflows, think about designing the outcomes. And so they're the ones kind of writing the intent and embedding that intent, and moving away from our humans and individual team members being more kind of manual fix-it or manual problem solvers, and really more architecting those outcomes and those workflows.
Rishi, okay.
Yeah. So I have seen this 4 or 5 pillars to that, right? So when we are also changing that, and Rakuten is spearhead in doing the transformation, right? We have the open network, which world has never seen earlier, right? At this level. So first of all, from the cultural perspective, it's a mindset change is required, right? From the skills perspective and then from the culture perspective, it's very important. The transformation of skills, I have seen people are, with some challenging job, right? Today we are all sitting and we are talking about more agentic AI, autonomous network, intent-based networking, and then more like proactive approaches, right? To give the desired KPI and SLA. And for that, you need to unlearn what you have done in the past, and you have to learn the new things. So this transformation skill is a challenge. And with the same guys, right? Train them who are used to some technology for last so many years. So that's the challenge. Second, which is technically, I have seen that the architecture evolved in many operators, 2G, 3G, 4G, or in enterprise, right? You can see that everything is in silos. And for example, if you talk about, say, Rakuten Symphony, they started with a hybrid cloud concept where all the application sits on the Kubernetes layer, right? But that's not the scenario with all the operators today. They have the data silos, they have the different NFVI or NFV layers from the different vendors because they never worked with each other. That was the scenario. So there is a data silo, there is a transformational skill gap. There is then so many touch points because of API security issue, right? So there is a security issue which will pop up over a period of, because you are opening up everything. Who is going to scale that? So there, and then last we talk about trust, AI trust. So how much we can trust that? I learned one line somewhere. I read that now because of this, we are changing a network engineering to network pilot. So that's the main area which required everything: people, cultural, and technological change. This is a big change.
So the title of today's session is Autonomous Networks from Human-Led Operations to Zero-Touch Orchestration. So if we were sitting here this time next year, pertaining to that topic, what do you think the focus should be on? Rishi, I'll start with you.
So I think the end goal is to achieve, zero-touch orchestration. To be honest with you, that's the area or the step to go towards the full-scale automation. And with the help of the technologies which are the cloud-native environment, right? Like Rakuten Symphony offers a CNP layer and a CNS layer, right? So where any application sit on any hardware, right? That's the beauty of the platform. Or ORAN concept, right? Where any antenna vendor can talk to any RU vendor, and then our software can sit on that, and it works seamlessly. So what I want to see, and that first step towards that, which is JetTO, which will take its own time because there is legacy, but somewhere someone has to start and take the step to have an open API-based concept, so that we can enable this journey and then fulfill the ultimate goal of complete orchestration on a single platform or a layer. So that's the ambition in coming 2 to 3 years, but it can eventually happen if we start from now.
Yeah. Gaya?
I'll pick up something on the back of that before I add something else. But in May this year, Telstra won a joint award for a project that we did with Ericsson, the TM Forum Moonshot Award, Catalyst Moonshot. I'm probably going to get the name wrong, but really what that project was intended to demonstrate is how we would balance the service outcomes or business objectives with actually what we think of more as an internal need. And so, in some of the examples we use, and really kind of focusing on some of the RAN orchestration examples that you talked about, where we need to get to for a customer outcome, but then balancing that internal energy efficiency as an objective, for example. And so absolutely, I think that is what we're going to be talking much more about in the next 12 months. The other thing I think we'll also be really focused on is, what do those commercialization examples look like? There's a great example, I think, more in that mobile network space with the Aduna joint venture that's brought together multiple operators around the world who've collaborated on what standard APIs or open APIs look like from a mobile network perspective, because that's going to allow, app developers and lots of other kind of end user businesses to scale the capability they have. So imagine developing a product or a solution and you're automatically able to go to a platform that gives you capability to operate in multiple markets on multiple networks. And that's super powerful. And I think we have to think of more and more examples of that in other types of network infrastructure. So I really think that's where the conversation is going to be in 12 months' time. Another thing I think I'll say is how we think about end state needs to change. And I think historically, a lot of that transformation of network technology has been very long horizon. We're used to thinking about 5 to 10 year horizons with each generation of technology. That is totally going to change. And so at Telstra and Telstra International, the way we think about it is to define future state and make sure the future state's agile enough to consistently be changing as the technology landscape changes. So we need to be prepared that we might define a future state, and that's our transformed state, but the transformed state has to be agile enough that when the technology landscape changes in 12 to 18 months rather than 5 to 10 years, that our operations can move with it and adopt that as well.
I think hopefully one of these sessions that we have, it's achieved zero-touch orchestration, and we actually achieved that. So hopefully we have that discussion sometime soon. Rishi Shukla with Rakuten Symphony, we always appreciate your insight and your time. Gaya, Byrne, it was good to meet you. First time. Yeah. It sounds like you were definitely at TM Forum a few months ago, by the way. I was there as well, and you were there. It was a really interesting insight, and we'll talk to you as well sometime soon, maybe at TM Forum next year. So
thank you.
Thanks for the time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.